Let's give an official good morning, good afternoon, hello to everybody. Thanks for joining us from wherever you're coming from. I'm Ken Bragg. I work for Safe Software from Europe. I'm based in France, and I'll say good morning to Dale, who's calling in from Vancouver. Hi, Dale.
Good morning, and I'm one of the two co-founders of SAFE, and actually, Ken, I didn't mention it to you on the pre-chat, but today is the 24th birthday of SAFE. So what better way to celebrate the 24th birthday than getting up early to do a webinar?
Wow, that's terrific. Yeah, well, I'm really excited to do this webinar. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, partly because I do love the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I think we might have a screenshot from that movie coming up. But also, I've seen so many infrastructure organizations using FME, more and more airports, railways, highways. FME is showing up all over the place in infrastructure, and this is an area that I find really, really interesting. So I'm really happy that we've got 3 stories from different infrastructure companies. Herben Tiemens is joining us from Schiphol Airport, so that will be the plane story. We'll be talking about the train story will come from Infrabel, the railway asset manager in Belgium. And then Dale, I guess you're talking about something a little bit closer to home as the automobile story.
Yeah, just some infrastructure work just down the road here in Burnaby on behalf of Herman Louis, who's done a fabulous job with incorporating FME into a workflow there. But Herman is sleeping soundly in his bed right now, so I'm going to present on his behalf.
Right. Yeah, so as we go along, please do post questions or comments into the questions panel. Mark Ireland is available. Mark's in Manitoba right now. Nathan, I believe, is in Vancouver. Stephanie's in Langley, BC. So there's SAFE staffers all over the place available to answer questions. So please do take advantage of that.
Yes, we're using a decentralized approach this morning so we can handle any infrastructure failure should that happen.
Yeah, so yeah, the inspiration obviously for this webinar comes from the great movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles starring the Canadian John Candy, who sadly passed away for a few years ago. So I think we have a little screenshot.
There we are.
That doesn't look like John Candy. That looks like you, Dale.
You do a fine Steve Martin, Ken.
How come I got to be the straight guy?
Anyways, lots of fun, and that's we don't quite look that cheery this morning, although I think for both of us those would be appropriate bits of clothing to be wearing.
I am actually wearing a scarf right now. It's pretty cold here. So if you haven't seen the movie, it's a terrific movie starring the great Canadian John Candy and of course Steve Martin.
yeah, exactly.
So
anyway, Ken and I are pleased to be able to speak with you all this morning, and thank you for joining in. For those that aren't aware, we thought we'd spend a couple of minutes just talking about what this FME thing is. And FME exists to make it easy for our users, our customers, to get their information from wherever it is to wherever they need it to be. And so we've been doing this, I've kind of hinted before, this is now the 24th year of 24th birthday of SAFE right now, this morning, but we started at the beginning helping forest companies exchange information with government. And from those 2 systems at the very beginning, we've grown today, and actually that number is out of date. FME 2018 will have more than 400 different systems supported between databases, rasters, 3D, XML, cloud, LiDAR. All these different data types can flow through FME and be rearranged and integrated on their way through. And so all of that happens without any of our customers having to roll up the sleeves and write code. And so what we find is that FME provides a very productive way to get data from where it resides to where it is best made use of. And so these projects we're going to be talking about today all involve this movement of data and adding value and utility to the data as it sort of flows through, as it arrives in the destination system, ultimately so that better decisions, better use of that data can be made. And I was thinking about it last night. The world has certainly not gotten less complicated in the 24 years we've been in business, and there's never been a greater need for informed decision making than there is today, and really that's what makes it worthwhile for all of the safers to get up even early in the morning to do the work that we do, so that we can help our customers ultimately make those better decisions.
Great. So that number of formats, now I was presenting on this slide the other day, and it's hard to stay current on the number of supported formats. So you figure it's somewhat over 400 right now?
Yes, the sort of insider baseball is that we did some work with we use a lot of open source libraries at FME, and in the FME 2018 release timeframe, we've enabled about 40 or 50 more raster formats. Now, many of those are very niche formats, but they're kind of, they were there for the taking. Some of our friends in Sweden had pushed us around this thing called Google VRT, virtual raster. I'm not sure what the T stands for. But as a result of doing that work, which is very important to them and many others, out of it fell us being able to support a huge number of rasters. But there's also some new web services like ProjectWise and Salesforce that we're doing some work with. So those add into the total too.
Great. Wow. So where we're going to go from here, just to kind of cover off the quick points at a high level, Dale and I will talk a little bit more about how FME helps customers dealing with infrastructure assets. So kind of a high level talk about that, some of the formats and transformations that are helpful there. Then we're going to get into our 3 stories. So we'll hand things over to Gerben, as I mentioned, from Schiphol Airport to talk about where FME fits in their data management infrastructure. I'll talk a bit about Infrabel, the Belgian railway asset manager, and Dale will talk about the city of Burnaby and how FME is used to handle asset exchange standards. And I think we have a surprise in store at the end, Dale, regarding virtual reality. Is that
Yes.
right?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of risk, and nobody's ever seen it outside of like 3 people at SAFE, but we will try. I was able to take some screenshots last night, so at the very least we'll have some screenshots, but I'm confident we're going to be able to do some interesting things.
Great. So yeah, where does FME fit in terms of infrastructure? Well, there's kind of a few points at a high level where we're seeing FME getting used. Validation, do you want to talk about that a little bit, Dale?
Yes. When we began with building FME, the idea was to get data from A to B and apply rules so that when it gets to B, it's what people want to see. What we didn't realize was that those rules could filter things so that only the bad stuff makes its way to B. So in other words, we can validate or ensure that data is matching some specification, that the constraints upon data are what they are being honored. And if there are problems, that is what we'll write out to the destination so that the customer can go back and then make adjustments. And so there's a lot of use cases and a lot of tools inside of FME around ensuring data conforms to some spec.
Yeah, and I think the Belgian story there has a little bit of that in it. So we'll look at a specific example. I put the word compilation in there, and what I meant by that was we see more and more asset handlers dealing with data coming from a lot of different disciplines, a lot of different parties, and a lot of different applications in the end. So different disciplines are working with different software, and there's a need often to compile this data together into a common view, whether it be for wayfinding applications at an airport, which we're going to see, or maybe for a project manager to take a look at a unified view of the data, what some people are calling in the BIM world a common data environment. So there's a need for combining data in different formats coming from different systems. So we're seeing FME getting used in that realm a bit.
And the general data management areas where FME can fit in to ensure that the data gets aggregated into a warehouse of some kind. And we'll talk more, well, we've talked already about the quality assurance side of that. That's a part of data management as well. Centralizing numerous inputs into an enterprise-wide data model. These are the types of areas where we see FME often being used. Esri has a variety of kind of prescribed data models that if you can get your local government data into that, for example, then they have a bunch of applications that immediately lay upon that schema. And that's another aspect of where FME can play a role in transforming data so that it conforms to that type of data model, and then all the advantages of being in a well-known data model begin to take over.
When we talk about asset handover, and this is kind of a term that's coming up more and more again in the BIM world, but we could talk about this just generally in infrastructure. This is the requirement that contractors or companies need to deliver a digital asset. We're sort of referring to here to what we used to call as-builts. We used to talk about delivering as-built drawings. So that was a drawing to represent an asset when it was completed. Now the requirement, this asset handover requirement, happens throughout different phases of a project, and it's really a requirement about delivering a digital representation of the asset at different phases. So we're seeing FME helping out a lot there, creating packages or creating data in a format to be delivered to the asset owner.
Mm-hmm. And then on the infrastructure standard side, things like in the story that I'll be telling in a few minutes about Burnaby was centered around that. There was a big effort that was made for municipal governments to impose a standard for CAD and civil submissions, a standard around layer naming, attribute naming. And then once that standard is in place, then something like FME can both ensure that submissions match that standard, but also, just as I said about Esri applications working on a fixed data model, you can build data moving workflows that require that input standard and allow very quick movement of data that's submitted to other parts of the organization. And as well, FME has been used to actually create data in standards as well. And so that's a very broadly used type of functionality that we see customers doing.
When it comes to data visualization, lots of formats we can write in FME make data more accessible. So we'll talk about 3D PDF as an example. That FBX is another one that might be interesting that way. I want to do a bit of a shout out to a partner in the Netherlands, Sweco, who has been using FME to move asset data into the HoloLens, so they can look at asset information in the HoloLens, and you can see a screenshot of that there. Dale will be talking about ARKit at the end, so I think I won't say much more on that topic.
Yep.
Some of the formats, we probably shouldn't talk about all of these, Dale, but these are some of the formats supported in FME that really play a role in infrastructure.
You know, Ken, we could do just a webinar where we talk about every format, all 400. It would be like almost a marathon. I think it'd be exciting to go one by one and do like a nice little monologue. Wouldn't that be great?
I know what you mean. I could go into a lot of detail about some of these right here.
Yeah, every format is special. They're like our children in SAFE. But anyway, I'll just say, you know, obviously lots of Autodesk formats when we're talking about between Autodesk and Bentley, they have quite a big representation here. We're working with Bentley to get iModel support into FME, and I've seen some of the results that's going to allow. Basically, it's going to allow us to bring data in from a broad set of the Bentley products, and that's pretty exciting. Apple Venue format is Apple's format for the exchange of venue information for either people to create their own applications or for certain types of venues, the Apple Maps itself will show it. And so that's a very big one for people that might be tuning in today, and we've really been impressed with the results some of our customers have achieved using that. And we should maybe just touch on, of course, the Esri family. We only picked geodatabase here. There's about 10 Esri formats as well that can be used as either sources or destinations. Microsoft Excel, the workhorse of attribute data, very, very heavily used. And at least one of our stories is going to talk about Excel a little bit. And I'll show some SketchUp stuff if all goes well at the end today. I'll actually show some results of IFC translation. That's the industry foundation classes that are used for building exchange. And Ken, what do you got for Minecraft?
Well, yeah, no, Minecraft is a funny one. Is that an infrastructure format? Well, in fact, we're seeing lots of customers and partners making Minecraft models with FME. And this was an interesting one done by our partner Contera in Germany, where they were asked to create a Minecraft model for the train station in Uberürsel. Can you say that, Dale? I certainly can't. But this, this was part of the Deutsche Bahn was implementing a visioning process. How do people want to see this train station look in the long term? So we could say Minecraft is another infrastructure format, and there's certainly been lots of action around there. The YouTube video on that, if you want to check it out, that was actually produced by somebody who I think is a pretty big deal in the Minecraft world in Germany, the Joe Craft. So the fact that the Joe Craft did a Minecraft video on this means if you're a Minecraft person, this was quite a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, I know in many of the countries there's been all kinds, like the Swedes have done lots and lots of work. Our friend Sweco pioneered some of the original Minecraft work, and we've seen people producing these kinds of things worldwide now.
Yeah, no, it's quite cool. So when it comes to transformations for infrastructure, those that use FME a lot know already that we have transformers in FME, and we're not talking right here down to the level of detail of transformers, but just kind of at a higher level, some of the stuff that we do. Dale, do you want to talk about the attribute side or the geometry side?
I'll take attributes for 200, Ken.
Okay.
So on the attribute side, again, as we move the data from its source to destination, there's a wide range of things you might want to do. And we talked already today about validation, ensuring things conform to some spec. If we're integrating data, there may have been some kind of a key column that was in one of our input sources that we need to match with the second one. And actually, I think we're going to do a webinar just on that. As far as I can tell, there's at least 5 ways FME can be used to resolve relationships depending on the situation. Schema mapping, if there was a set of columns named A, B, and C, but you want them to be D, E, and F, then that's the type of manipulation there. Or maybe you want to combine A and B to create D, then that's done there. We can detect if data has been updated by comparing an old to a new, and then we can also apply updates to a wide range of formats if they are databases with keys. So we can just say, look, this record has changed, please update it. And lastly, we can dumb data down. So if you have a lot of detail and you want less, then you can use FME to remove detail. Of course, we can't bring it back again, but sometimes, especially with building information models, they are far too detailed. You don't need to know where all the door handles are if you're going to ArcGIS for the purpose of routing. And so chucking the stuff out is a big part of those types of, especially BIM to GIS migrations.
Yeah. No, and simplification is on the geometry side as well, so it kind of applies to both sides of the equation there. Some other things that people are using FME for quite a bit: georeferencing a model, so taking a model that might be built in something like Revit, and we need to place that in the real world to see it in context in a GIS system. Turning 2D stuff into 3D, things can be extruded in FME. Handling geometry instances, so maybe instantiating the instances, putting them in place throughout the model, working with appearances and textures, so lots of fun and useful stuff we can do with geometry in FME. So automation, and it's interesting, we're talking a bit about automation. I noticed a long-time partner and customer, Jeff Conan from Luxembourg, tweeted out something in response to an FME presentation. He said, "What's not automated does not work over time." And I thought that was a pretty important point, and we're going to see automation show up in some of these examples. But what are we looking at here, Dale? This is
kind of, again, not been seen by the general public, but this is something from FME Server 2018, which this has always been able to be done by FME Server, but not set up graphically. And so what's happening here, this is a workflow that's sitting there in your FME Server configuration. We didn't mention at the beginning, but FME manifests itself on the desktop and the server and in the cloud. And so on the server side, it's about automating the movement of data. In this case, we're watching for something to arrive in Dropbox, and when that happens, we're going to run a workspace right away, and then we're going to if that workspace succeeds, run another workspace, and then ultimately send emails, put something in Dropbox, and add something to a JMS queue. So this is about the automation of the moving of data, and our customers have done very sophisticated and amazing things so that while they're at home sleeping, things happen. And actually a great example is the California Earthquake Authority. An earthquake happens, an email arrives, and someone used to have to get up and produce a variety of insurance-related spreadsheets. Instead, the green box would be an email arriver, and then one orange box to compute new spreadsheets and then email them out to a wide range of people who need that information about the potential impact of the earthquake. That's the kind of thing that happens with automations.
Great, thanks, Dale. So we're going to jump to the one and only demo of this webinar. So we're going to have one demonstration here. And what I'm doing in this demo, I set this up ahead of time, but what I wanted to show was a migration of Civil 3D data, Autodesk Civil 3D, into a GIS. So this is going to go into a personal geodatabase. Kind of wanted to focus on Civil 3D because that's one of the formats we've done a lot of work on lately. We've improved the reader so that we can look at and extract the 3D information from a Civil 3D. We can extract surfaces now from Civil 3D, and we can get out 3D features as true 3D features. So I'll just pop open the data inspector here, and we can have a look at what I mean by that. So here's that data. I just popped it open in the data inspector. And you can see the Civil 3D file does indeed have a mesh. So that's a 3D mesh. So I'm going to pop that into my 3D mode here and zoom in a little bit. And we can see that we've got a mesh surface on top. So FME, in fact, Dale, I listened to a webinar that you and Lena did, I think about a year ago. You were looking at the same data and you could not see this surface. So that's available now. It's got kind of a dark texture that obscures things. So we'll deal with that.
Big improvements in our civil reading.
Yeah. So here we have the pipe network, and these are true 3D. They're in fact B-rep solids. So we're going to translate that. And you'll see underneath there's an alignment layer. So that's what we read before. That's all we read before, this vector alignment layer. So that's the data that I'm going to work with here really quickly. So the alignment layer, I'll take care of that first. And I did notice that those features were all aggregated. So I'm going to deaggregate them. And when going into any of the Esri formats, we typically need to filter the geometry into the different geometry types. So we need to send points to a different feature class than lines. So this is kind of a fairly typical transformation that we do in FME. I'm going to add a file geodatabase writer into this workspace. And again, another typical thing that our users do, you have this file geodatabase sitting here already, and you want to import the schema of the feature classes so that you know you're writing into the exact target schema that you want to write into. So FME is going to ask me which feature classes I want to bring in here as my targets, and I'll just drag them nice and neatly into that bookmark. So now it's just a matter of connecting things up here, and I'm just going to get in a little closer here. So I'll connect the points to, and I think I can reorder these ports now. Yeah, I love that, Dale, being able to change order those points. Yeah. So I'll connect the lines to a lines feature class, and you can see that that's already set up to take geodatabase polylines. And the points go off to the points feature class. Now this structure feature class, this is the one I want to hold those B-rep solids. So how is that represented in a geodatabase? And that's actually a little bit different. So we have the geodatabase multi-patch geometry. So that's the geometry type I defined for that feature class. And FME will just take those B-rep solids and translate them into multi-patch. That just happens automatically. So that's really great. I also added in a few user attributes here, a few attributes in the database to hold some of this Civil 3D information that we can now pull out of Civil 3D. I gave them names that are a little bit more user-friendly, so I just have to do a quick schema mapping exercise to map the attribute names that I want to keep. So those of you that know FME really well will know I cheated here a little bit by setting a transformer default. But I'm going to keep these attributes here. These are the ones in Civil 3D I want to use. And you can tell those names aren't quite the same as the names I want. So I'm going to use an extremely powerful transformer, the attribute manager, if I can type this right, boot manager. Where are we now? Boot, there it is. Thanks. And all I've done in this particular case is just rename these attributes, but this is a really powerful transformer. We can do all kinds of stuff here, calculate attribute values, manipulate the strings, put conditional handling in there. But this is just a simple schema mapping, so there we go. And now we'll see that all the attributes for the structure feature class are green now, meaning they're going to get populated. Object ID will get taken care of by ArcGIS.
So Ken, you had set defaults on that attribute manager because otherwise it didn't know how to read your mind and set things up, did it?
That's right. I cheated a bit there with defaults. Yeah.
Yes.
The other thing I'm going to do at the same time here, because we're getting this really useful 3D information, a format that we like a lot is 3D PDF, because that's a format where you can share 3D stuff and any PDF viewer can open that and look at that in 3D. So again, I've cheated a bit. I've got the writer in this workspace already. I'm just going to duplicate these feature types on the 3D PDF writer. And I just plunked them into some crazy places here. So I'll just move these back into my bookmark.
I'm going to get you to collapse that.
Yeah, I would. Dale's asking me to try something brand new. This bookmark here, Dale?
Yes, just hit the little button on the left there.
Actually, I think I can just go right click, collapse. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, nice and neat. And actually,
yes, that's a
structure one too. Yeah. Oh, sorry, here it is, structure. Only other thing I want to do, I mentioned getting rid of that really dark appearance. So I'll use the appearance remover transformer to just pull the appearance off that thing. And that's all I want to do. So I'll just run this. And
you've got some terrain and stuff happening on the bottom too, right, Ken?
That's right. So this, if folks are interested in this, I'm creating a ground surface model. So I've got DEM of the ground, draping a orthophoto over that, just to put this in context. So this Civil 3D file was in real world coordinate system. So that just kind of worked. And yeah, that should be done. So we wrote some data into ArcGIS file geodatabase, and we wrote it into a 3D PDF, which I'll just drag over here.
Like a cooking show.
Yeah, it's already baked. Actually, that did write the PDF file there. So
yeah,
that's right. So yeah, and our layers show up in the layer view here in the 3D PDF. So I can turn off the surface, and if we zoom in here, we can see these 3D structures, this pipeline information in context with the orthophoto. So powerful stuff. And I think that's all I'm going to say about that.
Wow. So that was, just to kind of drive home what happened there. We had data from about 3 or 4 input sources being integrated and output into 2 different outputs, one for the GIS analyst and one for the public to view, and all done in 2 minutes. So pretty impressive, Ken.
Thanks. No, that's good. I mean, it's powerful stuff. I enjoy working with this infrastructure data. So the next bit, I'm going to pass things over to Herben Tiemens from Schiphol Airport. And I just wanted to mention that personally, I'm really, really pleased that you could join us, Herben, because I'll admit I travel a lot for work, and Schiphol Airport is probably the airport I pass through the most, even more than Vancouver Airport. And when I was up in the Netherlands last, Case from your office did a presentation on FME, but he showed me his iPhone with the Apple Maps having the Schiphol Airport displaying inside it. So the blue dot in Apple Maps was working inside Schiphol Airport. So when I left the conference, I happened to pass through the airport, and sure enough, I opened up my iPhone, and there it was. I'm getting the indoor data of Schiphol Airport on my iPhone. I was just totally impressed by that. And I found out afterwards that Vancouver Airport, another airport that Dale, you and I know very well, also has the indoor data right there in Apple Maps. It's just right there for you. Super impressive. And that's a screenshot there actually from my phone from Vancouver Airport, just to prove that works. So this is interesting stuff. Herben, I'll hand things over to you now. I think I've talked too much about it. but or I'll just see if he's. Can you speak to us now, Herman? I think I had him muted, so I just need to unmute you there. Where are we? There we go. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Ken.
Good.
Thanks for introducing me. You already gave away some spoilers, so maybe you can give my presentation.
No, I shouldn't have said so much, but I'm just so excited about this. I couldn't help talk about it a bit.
No problem. Welcome all. I'm Gerben Tiemens. I work at Schiphol Airport. I'm the technical architect and coordinator of the GIS teams. Together with Kees van 't Hoog, who's in the audience today. I will talk about FME at our airport, and I will talk why Ken will so much fly with our via our airport. Next slide, please, Ken.
Sorry about that. Is that where we want it to be? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So first, an introduction about Schiphol. For many of you, you will know Schiphol already, but Schiphol is an airport. We have about 500,000 airplane movements, and we have about 320 direct connections to airports all over the world. So we transport a lot of passengers and a lot of cargo. And doing that, we have 300,000 jobs in direct and indirect at Schiphol. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what's so important then at Schiphol? What do we have to do? Let's start with the assets. Schiphol is assets-driven company. So we talk about assets in area, assets in, we have to maintain our assets. So we have about 50 million euros as maintenance costs. 600 million of aviation investments on new assets. We have 12 large technical main contractors working every day, building and renewing our total assets and buildings. We have 6 start and landing strips and 50,000 assets in total if we what we have registered in our GIS systems and in our asset systems. So to clean it, we need 30 million euro yearly. So that's the context with what we are working in. Next slide, please, Ken. So what are we working on daily? And just at the moment, we have a lot of eye-catching projects. At this moment, we have a new Hilton hotel. We are centralizing security filters. We're building a G pier, E and F pier are renewed. New gates, new central security filter at departure 2 and 3. Ken is using it. And we are renewing the security filter at departure 1 and launch 1. Ken is using it for his flights within Europe. And we're building a complete new A pier that will be an extra pier that's not yet in place. So if you walk at Schiphol at the moment, you see building activity everywhere. And all that building activity we will register it in our GIS systems and in our asset systems. Okay, next slide, please. So what's then our ambition at Schiphol? We looked at becoming the largest airport of Europe. Ken, can you click?
Yeah.
But largest, we have some problems in space. We are in between Amsterdam and the other cities within the Randstad of the Netherlands. So space is a problem, and we can't become the largest. Then most flights of Europe. That's maybe the second, but yeah, that will not happen at the moment. We have some strict regulations within with the government. At this exact moment, we are almost at the maximum flights that is now allowed. So our ambition becomes becoming the preferred airport of Europe. And that's why Ken is so much at our Schiphol Airport.
Well, I have to say that's true. I do often, when I'm given the choice how to get back to Vancouver, for example, I do always choose to go through Schiphol Airport. So it is quite honestly my preferred airport. I may be offending some of my other friends in our partner community out there, but that is true.
You know, I'm embarrassed to say, Dale from Vancouver here, I've never been to that airport, but I'm breaking that long drought this year on both of your great advice. I'm going to be going out of that airport next May.
Yeah, thank you. Now we're working hard to becoming the preferred airport. We are already the preferred airport of many, but we will be becoming it for more people, and I will tell you why. Next slide. We will focus at the moment on best passenger experience, and we will do that via all kinds of improvements on the passenger experience, making things easier, passenger experience enhancing via easier security filters, better information. So we will digital share and open data, data that can be public, we will make available to public. We will enhance our digital indoor wayfinding, so navigation for everyone. At this moment, it's already possible for everyone with a normal telephone, mobile phone, to find your way within the terminal. So without GPS, you can locate yourself, knowing as the blue dot on your screen. We have a large number of Wi-Fi beacons and Bluetooth beacons inside the terminal, and you can locate yourself within 2 or 1 meter certainty, accuracy, I must say. So location matters at Schiphol, and to reach the ambition of preferred airport, we have 4 dimensions to work on. That is the organization. We have to enhance the organization to make the passenger experience better. We have to collaborate with everyone on the airport, and collaborate with everyone involving on the airport. And I will, in the next slides, focus on the left 2, the architecture, and then mainly the IT architecture, and on the data quality. So for this focus on data quality and architecture, we made a program that is the Digital Airport program. And one of the streams that is within the Digital Airport program is the Smart Airport Data. Smart. What you see here is officially an internal slide, but I can present it to you. We are creating a lot of open APIs for developers all over the world to create your own applications connecting to those APIs, so you can connect with our APIs and connect with our data. You can connect with our waiting times, you can connect with our indoor navigation, you can connect with our data that we deliver through those APIs. As you can see in the URL on the lower side of the slide, you can see if you navigate to schiphol.nl/developer center, then you can request a token to develop against those APIs.
Oh, I can imagine some of our participants here are taking eager note of that link there. That's cool.
Yeah. Not all APIs are yet public, and some are in closed beta. The wayfinding is at the moment in closed beta, but you can already let know that you're interested. The smart wayfinding, what is it? It's aiming to improve the passenger experience, and we have to reduce the stress and what most passengers experience some sort of stress and hurdles on when you're going to your gate. We made them visible for everyone, so most of you will know once you're on the airport, you have to check in. That's your first. Then you have to go to security filter. That's your second. And then you have to wait for your gate or walk to your gate. So by offering every passenger travel plan, how to walk, how much waiting time do you have, how much shopping time you have, you can make everyone life easier. And that is, we want to combine all data that we have, internal, but also external, and deliver that on an easy way to our travelers. And it's not a one-channel mobile way of giving that information. We are also combining the information into our digital boards inside the terminal, or giving it to our airport assistants, our live people inside the terminal, directing every passenger to its right gate. But together it involves all around the location, the time, and the context. So next slide, please. Wayfinding. Most people think of it as your navigation device inside your car, but wayfinding can be presented and in different ways. What you see here is from right to left. If you see total left, lower left, you see the Apple Maps. Ken already talked about. Everyone can see our 3D data inside Apple Maps. What you see in the middle is the travel plan. If you have the app Schiphol Wayfinder, it's not public yet, but will come. You can generate a travel plan for yourself, a personal travel plan with walking distances and walking times to your gate. It will make your life easier. We have so many gates and so many piers, so seeing directly which pier you have to go is giving a better passenger experience. Then our most left image, you see the augmented reality. We are already testing with augmented reality on your phone. As you may have seen, if you have an iOS device, Apple has updated your device with augmented reality techniques. And also Google updated the phones with augmented reality techniques. So we can now easily present our same data, wayfinding data, into an augmented reality state. And that is, every passenger wants the information in a different way, just what suits you best. Wow, and maybe there are even better ways for some passengers. So if you develop against our API, you can present it on your way. Yeah, can you go to the next slide? Okay, we're going to something more technical. I'm working at the GIS platform within Schiphol. The GIS platform is mainly our core asset database, and all our asset and infrastructure information is inside that GIS database. That is the spatial information of those assets and infrastructure. We are using FME to transport that data to our different platforms. And because I already told about the wayfinding platform, I will focus on that now. For our wayfinding data, we update our maps and routing data right from the asset core database. And FME is our ETL glue between that core database and our wayfinding API. Next slide, please. So how does that work? We have on the left the core assets and building information in our GIS. FME will transform and do some mesh networking on the building information and on all our assets information. And we will simplify the data to create raw wayfinding data. That data is then verified and enhanced, some parts by hand, some parts by automatic enhancements. Then we will check and validate the data so we can make it public. Then we have our wayfinding data sets. We have an internal routing and navigation for indoor navigation. That is based on Esri software, Network Analyst. We have our floor plans. So you have seen in the images the floor plans, 3D floor plans. Then we have our point of interest, and that's maybe the security filter or the gates. And then then we have our shopping information. Very important. If you have time, you can go to a shop or have a drink. Once we have our data ready, FME will also be our distribution to the several platforms. This main platform where we will drop our data is Schiphol API platform. But Ken already told you about it. We deliver our data to Apple Maps. Safe Software is talking with Apple about converting their the data sets that are given from the airports into their Apple Maps, but we are delivering it hopefully next year automatically to Apple. So that's just a month ago we arrived at a new milestone. Apple Maps published our 3D indoor map for everyone with Apple Maps. Google Maps is the second we want to support, but Google Maps was not yet ready for it. And we are talking with more platforms to distribute our data. So in the end, we want to have happy airport passengers, and I hope it will help to reach that.
Sorry, did I jump ahead on you too quickly there?
No, that's okay. You're okay.
I'll just mention that our Finnish partner mentioned that Here Maps has the indoor data already too. So that would be an example of some of those other platforms you're mentioning.
Yes, we're talking with Here too. That's right. And because Here is the data delivery to Esri and the Esri ArcGIS Online, you will see it there too. So we are working on the quality of information because our core data set is becoming more and more important for the end use of and the end products for that data. The quality of information must be improved. And at this moment, we are starting to create a more exact copy of the real world, also known as the digital twin. And once we have that exact copy of the real world, we want to have the data up to date. So the actuality of data is becoming more and more important. So once the new peer is ready, we want to have it in our GIS. Then we also have some real-time information. At this moment, in the Wayfinding API, you will get walking times. The walking times is dependent on more than just going from A to B. In between, you have some, let's say, the security filter, where you have to drop off your bag, stand in a scanner, and then walk on. Sometimes you have some waiting times there. So real-time information about what is the current waiting time is really important. Then we have our horizontal travelators. They can be just started, normal functioning, but stopped or in maintenance is also a status of those assets. That real-time information is now given into the API, but you will not see the status of the API, status of the travelator, but you will see that the walking time becomes 1 minute longer.
I actually always wondered what the proper word for that was. I think we call it a people mover sometimes, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, we normally call it travelators, then horizontal. So Schiphol Spatial Information as Digital Twin. At this moment, we work on the most middle left, authoritative geospatial data. But more and more, we are working with real-time sensor feeds. At this moment, we are starting to use FME for the tabular and unstructured data to join with our spatial data. And at this moment, we get more and more observations by staff and experts, and some sensor generated and some crowdsourced observations are coming in too. So the digital twin concept is becoming more and more important. And because the digital twin will enhance the quality of data, you will see that the update of and automatically update of our wayfinding data becomes easier and easier, and will also enhance the quality of that indoor wayfinding data. Next slide, please. So what are our next steps with FME? We want to enhance the creation of the digital twin with automation of import and feedback processes. And we want to use the digital twin as the source for our information products. So wayfinding is one of our information products, but we will create more. Then we distribute the data sets to several data formats. As mentioned, the Apple venue format is the format we deliver our indoor wayfinding data to Apple. Is one of those data formats that is becoming important at the moment. Then we have to deliver those data sets to the platforms, and having the digital way of delivering. So via a REST API will automate. So that's what we are working on, and I hope you enjoyed it. You can go to the next slide, Ken. Thank you for my part, and keep watching because we're going to automobiles. Thanks.
Sorry, I was muted. No, thanks for that. That's just terrific. I just find that really fascinating myself, and as a person that passes through this airport so often, I really see the benefit in what you guys are doing. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next part, and we have used quite a bit of time, and I want to be clear that that was Dale and I in the first part that has pushed our schedule a bit, not Harbin. So Dale and I went on as always, maybe longer than we should have. But I'll talk now about a railway example that I saw at the FME World Tour in Belgium. I actually saw this twice, once in Dutch and once in French and once in Dutch. So our partner Jim hosted an FME World Tour 2 in Belgium, and Robbie Kator, I want to thank him very much from Infrabel for doing that presentation and sharing this story with us. So this story is about trains, obviously. Infrabel is the Belgian railway infrastructure manager, and just to kind of put this into context, Infrabel has a long-term governance strategy for handling asset information, for implementing asset management systems, and for applying standards to some of this stuff. So you'll see in the bottom left there a couple of standards. This is a BIM standard and an asset information standard. So the work Robbie's doing here is really in this context. So Infrabel has something like 12,000 employees. So, you know, Robbie emphasized to me that FME is really a stepping stone in helping implement some of this long-term data governance strategy. At the beginning of the presentation, what I found pretty entertaining actually was Robbie and Dres from GIM opened up a paper schematic AutoCAD map. And I used to work in AutoCAD, and I know what this stuff is like. And you can sort of see from this the difficulty in moving this kind of drafted information into an asset management system. So this is looking at signals here, but there's all kinds of other assets that they're dealing with. So pretty challenging stuff. Next slide here. So the system landscape before FME, you can look at a process where designers were designing these infrastructure drawings in AutoCAD. It gets checked into AutoCAD Vault. There's some kind of quality control step happening. Maybe stuff is even getting printed out for quality control. There's some standards being applied by the designer at the design time. And then ultimately a data steward helps move that information into an asset information system, in this case, SAP. So that's kind of the landscape there. And some of the challenges here, there's a system integration challenge, really, where you're working with a lot of different systems, CAD systems, document management systems, enterprise asset management. But there's also a data governance challenge around quality and reporting. So quality of the data going into the asset management system and reporting on that. So once FME is implemented into this process, and I want to stress something that Robbie stressed to me, that this is a work in progress. FME isn't implemented in all of these processes yet. It's not a fully automated process, but there's lots going on, and where FME can help here is in a few different areas. We see FME applying validation rules that come from an Excel spreadsheet to the drawings as they're submitted. FME creating SDF files that go back to the designers to show them errors or incompleteness in the process. There's FME sending emails, so a bit of automation there, and FME moving data into a staging area for the asset information database. We talk about data quality specifically. This slide here really gives a good picture of the challenge of looking at the quality here. So apparently there's a bunch of errors in this drawing. Can we find what these errors are by just looking at it? And there's some animations in this slide to show us. So that's supposedly an error in topology. I don't think I would have picked that up myself just looking at it. We'll go on. That's an error, a duplication error. Okay, I guess I can see that. There's two things there. This is supposedly a, which is this one? This is a attribute error. This one is a standards error, so that would be really hard to pick up, I think, just looking at it. And then this one is an error to do with the grouping. So this is the kind of quality challenge that this organization has, how to validate this kind of stuff when it's getting moved into an asset information tool. The other thing that's being worked on, that FME is being applied to, and I understand this is a work in progress as well, is taking care of the deltas. So an error perhaps goes back, like this duplicate block that we were looking at. Another version of the drawing is created. How do we merge those deltas back into the database? So how are the deltas taken care of, passed through, and into the asset management database? So when it comes to quality and reporting on the quality, so Excel, we always talk about Excel. This is a format that we probably neglected for a few years at SAFE, but a really key format for reporting. So Excel reports are created, and then some of the more summary reporting is being done now to get a bigger picture of where the errors are coming from, what's the overall quality level. So this kind of thing FME can be a really useful tool for. So in the end, some of these challenges that Robbie and his team are trying to address with FME, integration with different software tools. I think we talked about that already. Validation, converting stuff from converting stuff from AutoCAD into Oracle. I think it's actually Post just now that they're using. Data quality, handling all these digital inputs, and ultimately automating some of the changes that are happening and automating some of the other processes. So really interesting work being done there, and the kind of thing that's being done at railway infrastructure companies all over the world. We've seen this in the Netherlands and in Germany, in Canada with CN Rail, in Austria with OBB. So quite a few other examples of this. So that's the train story, Dale. Do you want to talk a little bit about the next story?
Yes, I'll be very brief. We are out of time, and I know some folks have to take off, but fear not. We have actually presented this story before, and so we'll make sure that when we send out the follow-up email, we'll include a link to the webinar where we presented this one other time. And so for today, I won't get into the details at all about what the Burnaby folks have done. I'll just tell you only the high points, and that is that there was an effort in British Columbia to create what's called the Master Municipal Construction Document Standards, or MMCD, and the municipalities that adopt this require that contractors that are working in their area submit their plans and their as-builts according to this specification, which is a CAD/Civil 3D spec. So it details what the attribute names are going to be, how they're going to use object data that's in map 3D, and how they're going to, how that has all got to be structured. They can use FME to ensure that that spec has been honored, but then once they're sure of that, they can use FME to take that information, move it to GIS. And this story, it was actually as much about getting into GIS, but more so afterwards getting into spreadsheets for use in SAP and KML files for use by non-GIS technical staff. And so that's the 50,000 foot level, but the bottom line is, by having a well-known standard for input, they're able to create very, very powerful outputs. And if you, again, go to the next slide, Ken, you can see, maybe even the next slide after that, there. So they have input coming in from civil, and then they can crank out these KMLs for the non-GIS people and the Excel spreadsheets for the SAP people, and this greatly shortened many workflow cycles and got data into people's hands much, much quicker. And so that's really the 50,000 foot, if we're in our airplane from the beginning, level discussion of that. And our thanks to Andrew Walther, who's worked with us quite a bit throughout the whole process. Actually, I think we figure it's been 9 years that this whole standard has been being created, and it's wonderful to see the fruit of that being used by people like Herman over at the City of Burnaby. And so that's kind of my summary there. Again, the more detailed version we will include in a link in the mail out if I ask Stephanie very nicely to do that. I know, Ken, you had the link earlier. And then should we try our bonus topic? I know we're into overtime. If you have to leave, go ahead, people. And but if you can stay, do hang around to see if this is going to work. I got lots of things going on here. And so
okay. You're the presenter now, Dale. I really drove you through those slides. When I'm driving the slides, it's amazing the power that you have, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, so what do you have there, Ken? Whoops. I'll say, let's see, show my screen. Which one is screen 2? I don't know which screen is screen 2, Ken. We'll try this. We'll
find out. Right.
Okay, so which screen is showing?
The slide deck.
Slide deck. That means I want screen 2. And you should see a very small iPad there, which is making me sad.
Yep.
Let's see. I want to try to go a bit bigger with that. So, sorry, folks. This is always, so I'm saying 720p. Well, let's try 1080p. And what if we say that to that? No. Well, it looks like I have to show it small. Sorry about that, everybody. That was not doing that before. Dale's iPad. Oh, wait a minute. I think I may know. So sorry, I'm going to try one more bit of fiddling.
I'll just mention a few things, just because we are at time. So if you had an hour allocated for this, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks a lot to Herman for presenting the Schiphol Airport story, and thanks to Robbie Cator from Infrabel in Belgium, and thanks a lot to Herman Louis from Burnaby for that story. And we're going to see some cool stuff with the AR kit, I think is what Dale's about to show. But
well, that's a little bit better.
Stephanie will follow up with an email and a link to the recording of the webinar as well. So if you want some of the details, and we always do post the workspaces that we used. In this case, there's really just one, so that will be posted on the website as well.
Boy, oh boy, Ken, it was working great last night. Wow. Well, anyway, maybe we should.
You want to go to this? You had some slides on it, I think. Yeah.
Yes. So bottom line is we've got a let's see if maybe I'll drag this window over there. I can just, okay. Well, we learned our lesson there about relying on ARKit. So basically, I'm just trying to show my iPad on the screen live, but bottom line is we've got an app we're calling FME AR for iOS. We'll be releasing that soon. We'll open source the code. I have a model from SketchUp. Yep.
Can you just put that in presentation mode just to make it a bit bigger? Yeah.
Let's see. Present.
Thanks.
Current slide. Present. Let's see. No. Try that.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know what's going on. There we go. Still not
Thanks.
really doing what I wanted. I had a building model that came from IFC, and I could put that on my table and pan and zoom around and show it. And I also had a scene that was a digital elevation model that I could pan and zoom around on as well. And Dimitri, this was an integration of an elevation model, some satellite imagery, and then a GPS track. And so, for example, we could do some very impressive things if we wanted to explore the California wildfires using planet imagery from, say, yesterday, lay that on top of an elevation model, put it into your iPad, and then walk around and look for yourself at how that is going. So that's all that I'll try to say. Otherwise, I'll give it one more try, Ken, if you just want to do any final wrap up, but looks like it was not a good day for my. Oh.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there'll be an email always sent to everyone that registered for the webinar with a link to the recording and the slides. And if you're interested in how we do the ground surface model textured with an air photo, there's a knowledge-based article on that, an FMEpedia. I think if you just look for, just search for appearance adder, that's the transformer that we use to apply textures onto surfaces.
Is it working, Ken?
Yeah, this looks pretty cool. This looks familiar. Is that the Arc de Triomphe and the?
It is. We can actually go in and take a look.
Soldier?
Yeah. So so people can basically see that. I'll try. Let's try the hike.
So we're seeing. Is this your iPad being projected?
Yep. Onto my bench here. Okay, and there.
Looks like something's coming in there.
There's an elevation model. I can pinch to zoom in and take a look if I want to get close to Dimitri's hike. You can probably see that. Oh
yeah, that's impressive. So FME has streamed some data to an ARKit app that you have running.
Yes.
Is that what's going on?
Basically, I've put the data on Dropbox, and it's basically a zip file of an OBJ file that we've created, and then this app of ours cracks that open and looks after placing it and so on. This is just going to take a second. This is actually an IFC model, if we have any luck here. There it comes, I think. This one's a bit more complicated. There. Okay, so this is an IFC model of a building site, and we should be able to kind of wander around. I don't know if you're seeing it at home there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We can actually, can we go right in and look inside the window? Yeah, there's somebody in the house. Can you see them over there?
Yeah.
And so
there always has to be a toilet in all of these.
We can go find the bathroom. I think there's a bathroom back in here somewhere. Whoa, okay. Yeah, I think
so
that in this case, the toilets. Oh, we can go inside. Yes, there it is, Ken.
Oh, there it is. Wow.
We went right in the bathroom.
It's actually fairly smooth considering I'm watching this from France. You're showing it from your iPad in Langley. There's a lot going on here for me to see this.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all that I have to see.
I guess the benefit of this to some of our customers is that if you have data in some format like IFC or
Civil 3D.
Civil 3D, you could put this into something into this little package using FME that makes it accessible by ARKit applications. Is that probably a fair summary of the benefit of this?
That's right. And basically, like Ken made that PDF at the beginning. Instead, you could dump it into the FME AR format and stream it down into any iOS device. And we're looking to refine this to be able to take, if you're using FME Server, you could run a workspace that knows where you are in the world and gives you a file relevant to that. That's sort of a use case where you're out in the real world. This is a use case that I'm showing here where you're just trying to inspect something that's lying on, or understand your world. Oh, let's go into the garage here. Whoa, there's a car in the garage. So anyway, no end of fun.
Well, that's great. It's a neat little bonus, and we're only actually 10 minutes over, so not quite as not quite as bad as I thought. So we seeing that you see the thank you slide now, Dale?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks again, everyone that helped put this together, and to Stephanie behind the scenes there, Nathan and Mark Ireland who did questions, and thanks a lot, Dale, for doing this together with me. That was really fun.
No problem at all. There's just one question I wanted to highlight. Knut asked, does FME work with linear referencing? Because that's a big deal for infrastructure folks. And the answer is yes. We've got lots of transformers related to that. And I'll ask Stephanie to include a link to the linear referencing webinar we did a while ago for those that are interested in that. Definitely, that's part of infrastructure for sure.
Great. Okay, thanks everyone for joining and sticking around, and have a good holiday.
Yes, everybody have a great holiday, and we'll see you all in the new year. Thanks, Ken. Always great working with you. Enjoy what's left of your day, and it's time to get heading out. The sun has risen here, which means it's time to start my day here in Vancouver.
Bye-bye, Dale.
Goodbye.